Hi everyone, it's been quite a while since my last video, but I finally had some time to try out a new palette and film it for review. I'm usually a gouache painter and I have never tried watercolor before, so I really wanted to document my first watercolor painting and also what it was like using this palette, especially if you're deciding on purchasing this as well. Just as first impressions, I really like how the palette comes in this matcha color. The lid isn't waterproof, but it does come with a plastic cover to protect the paints. The most noticeable thing is its size, and this is a really huge palette and takes up a lot of space since it has 36 colors. But a really easy way to work around this is you can take out the colors out of the box to save space, or you can even take it out to place it around your artwork when you're taking photos. Plus, on the back of these, the color number and the name are printed in case you forget where you removed them from, which is extremely helpful. The material of these individual pans have this slippery hard plastic material, so it is durable, and the paints have a glossy finish. Especially for watercolor paints when it's hard to see the exact shade for darker colors, I find it really helpful to create a color swatch chart, and I've been using this whenever I use this palette. If you don't want to create your own chart, the inside of the watercolor box has a chart which you can swatch there as well, but I wanted something more portable and personalized. For first impressions, I'm quite blown away at how vibrant these paints are and that they are extremely buildable. I also love that there are so many shades of green, which is exactly what I wanted since I tend to paint a lot of Ghibli and landscape scenery, so this is something I highly suggest thinking about before buying. So like asking yourself, are these the kind of colors that you see yourself using a lot, especially for a 36 color palette? I did, however, find myself having to use quite a bit of water to get the paint working, as it does have this creamy texture because unlike Western watercolors, which are often bound by gum, these types of traditional Japanese watercolors are bound by glue that can be made from ingredients like starch, beeswax, collagen, sugar or syrup, hence the smoothness and the different finish. To really test this palette, I'll be painting a Ghibli scene from Kiki's Delivery Service. I picked this scene to test these colors' opaqueness, its vibrancy, just to see how buildable these really are in comparison to their swatches. Just a disclaimer, I did use gouache though for the sky as I was a bit hesitant in trying out the palette, but everything else was from the Gansai Tambi palette. What I really enjoyed about this palette is the colors are vibrant, they are quite opaque depending on how much water you use, and generally quite buildable. This was honestly the biggest reason as to why I purchased this, since I do a lot of Ghibli scenes and vibrant landscapes. In comparison to my Himimiya gouache set, I do prefer the colors here in this palette. The colors also stay vibrant when you mix with others as well, and they don't turn muddy, but I have heard that the best way to use this is straight from the pan or only mixing with one or two other colors. The second reason why I really liked this is it's so easy to use even for someone who doesn't have much experience with watercolor. I do of course practice a little by getting the hang of how much water to use, but because of how these are made, you can honestly treat them as watercolor gouache, if that kind of makes sense, if you're going for a more intense painting. And you can definitely still create a transparent or a bleeding effect, since they are still watercolors, by using more water. As someone who really struggles blending in colors using gouache, Gansai feels a lot easier and smoother to blend, and this has been so far my experience when using thick watercolor paper. Thirdly, similar to my Himimiya gouache set, I love that the pans are wide for larger brushes, but I also really like that I didn't need to do much mixing when creating this painting. So really the combination of the types of paintings I do and wanting to purchase something that wasn't your typical watercolor set, which might have been harder to work with, made this a really worthwhile palette investment. However, there are a few things I want to point out based on what I've researched and read is that this isn't your typical watercolor paint set because of the different binding it uses compared to Western watercolors. So if you are an experienced watercolor user, it will be different in terms of texture, how it may react to water, and its color and vibrancy. Secondly, I honestly think that if you do purchase this, catch it when it is at a discount. Even if they're extremely worthwhile products, I have frequently seen this palette go on sale, especially if you're in Australia on Amazon, so I think it's definitely a lot more worthwhile getting it at a cheaper price. Furthermore, I highly suggest taking the time to really consider the different palette sizes they have as well, if you're not sure what colors you will use, and really consider what colors are going to be essential to you and your paintings. For example, I really like having black and white in my watercolor sets and different shades of green, but not all palettes will have these options. So definitely do check out all the color swatches on the website, which I have linked in the description. Think about the different sizes of your palettes before rushing to buy, for example, the biggest size. Lastly, although I have mentioned that you can treat it almost like a watercolor gouache because of its thicker texture and ability to be more opaque than usual watercolor sets, it's definitely not the same in terms of opaqueness as, say, for gouache, and the colors, of course, are still prone to bleeding or being washed out. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked my content or my painting, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd had any questions about this palette as well, feel free to message me on Instagram, or you can post your questions in the comment section. I'll be able to answer everything as well, and I hope to see you in the next video then. Thank you!